Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacy Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the MotUS Edge, where we talk about leadership, motivation, and all things cheerleading and dance business related. I am Stacy Rowe with my favorite co-host, Casey Jones, and we are here today to talk about managing championship week emotions and expectations, prepping your kids for the big competitions, managing pressure, and keeping perspective.
The big show. Big competition week. You know, we're kind of in that that's happening about every other week for us right now. So
pretty much. So I'm sure you've got lots to say on how to manage those preparations and expectations, huh?
Yeah. I mean, goodness gracious, many years of doing it and doing some things correctly and then doing some things incorrectly. And then, you know, it's such a balance because we don't compete all the time. And I feel like over the years, we actually probably compete less than we used to in the early days. In the early days, man, we were, 10 to 12 competitions, and that was a lot. But, now the competitions many of them are a lot bigger, a lot bigger. There's a lot more around it. It's a lot bigger experience. So it is vital that, you are prepared and that your kids know what you're getting into, and they're not in the warm-up room of the large competition just looking around dazed because they've never seen and heard things that loud, or, they can't focus with 40 teams around them. We've all seen those giant competitions with the giant warm-up rooms where things can be overwhelming for kids.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, I agree with you too, Casey. I feel like a ton of mistakes as a young new coach, kind of preparing my athletes for those big events, and got, older and wiser. I think you talk about the warm-up room. So I think one of the things that you can do is prepare for that. If your kids have never been to a warm-up, if you've never been to a big event like that, you need to find people who have, and you need to ask them about their experience, ask them about the warm-up room. What is it like? And you need to share that with your kids. I remember when I went to cheer sport for the very first time, and the warm-up room is just one big, massive, gigantic, set of warm-up floors, but it's
you're in there for an hour.
Yes. And
you
it's
can redo the routine.
And there's 50 teams in there. It feels like anyway, all warming up at the same time. And it's massive and it's overwhelming the first time that you see it. After you've done it before, it's not as bad, but when the first time, so you got to know that, you got to prepare your kids for that. You got to let them know, hey, this is what it's going to be like, but we're going to stay focused in our little zone. It's still our mat. It's still just our 5 minutes or our 10 minutes on our little mat. And put your blinders on and then practicing the warm up. Preparing the kids. What are you doing on the first mat? Are you stretching? Are you playing games? And I know the parents are like, playing games, but in a warm up where there's 6 rotations of 10 minutes each, yeah, maybe you do play some little, do something to kind of calm their nerves on the first mat, because you got so many mats to go through, so what's the plan? How are they tumbling? What's the order? And practice that so that the kids are ready. I think that's so important. And I did not do that. I learned that the hard way. I did not do that my first time.
Well, I think, as a coach, you got to do your homework. You got to know how many panels, how much time. You got to know all those things, because if you show up in the warm-up room and your kids are used to warming up for 15 minutes and you only have 12 minutes, then that's going to be an issue. So, but and once again, like I said, just many years of experience and making mistakes. But I think that preparation really kind of comes from the top down. It's equally as important that you prepare the parents for what's going to happen this weekend, because, a stressed out parent that doesn't have information and doesn't understand that it's 1 mile from this part of the convention center to the other part of the convention center, they're going to pass that stress along to their kids. Same thing with the coaches, stressed out coaching staff because they're not prepared or they're worried about something, or, you haven't taken care of hotel rooms, or, just all the planning and everything hasn't been taken care of up front, then that stress is going to bleed down to the athlete. So
100%.
To me, it starts by, educating everyone. That's something we do for our competitions. We send out an email. We share that same email with our coaches. And basically, it kind of explains what's happening. It has a map of the convention center. It may have a map of the downtown area or wherever, and then it talks about the schedule and different things like that. And it also talks about safety. That's a big thing we have to concern ourselves with now, obviously. Is making sure that our coaches and our athletes are safe. So it's imperative that you go over those things before the event so that everyone understands,
Yeah. And in in today's day and age, like you could even just have a quick Zoom call, and it's for everybody, but you strongly encourage your new families or anybody that's never been to the event before to get on the Zoom call, and you can record it and then you send it out afterwards. Or, I know you guys have a private group, and you could go Facebook Live, but just you want to educate people. You don't need to have a meeting where they come in person. You could do a Zoom or Facebook. I have a funny story though, Casey, when you were talking about the parents or the coaches or whoever not knowing it's a mile through the convention center. So my daughter, when she was little, I think she was probably 7 or 8 years old. She was doing gymnastics. She did gymnastics most of her life. And she had a gymnastics meet in Nashville at the Gaylord Opryland.
Get lost in that place.
Yes. So I stayed in Nashville with a friend. I did not get a hotel, and I did not anticipate, I was not prepared for the amount of time that the travel was going to take with traffic. So we were already sort of a little bit late because of the traffic getting to the competition. And then for whatever reason, looking back now, I feel like I parked at the mall, and the Opryland Mall that's right there, and not at the hotel. And so then we're walking, and I can't figure out where to go. I can't figure out what, or maybe I came through the hotel entrance is maybe even what I did. And if you've ever done, we joke around all the time about the Gaylord Nashville, Opryland or whatever being the Hunger Games because it's so big and massive and crazy. And I remember the one time we were there for a cheer competition, there was no food, and it was may the odds be ever in your favor, right? But anyway, so they were supposed to be at check-in or whatever, let's say at 9:00. It's 9:10, and I've got Avery on my back like a backpack, and I am running through the hotel with her on my back, huffing and puffing, trying to find the Ryman exhibit hall, which I know all of these things now, but at the time I had no idea. And I was sweating bullets, and I finally got her there just in the nick of time for her first rotation.
And I'm certain she wasn't stressed at all about any of that.
No, so I'm sure she was not stressed out at all. And I was mortified as a parent.
Athletic performance.
Right. And I was mortified as a parent too, because I should have known better. Of all parents, I should have known better. So that never happened again. Just all right, so we're clear.
I got to go way off topic here, but you were talking about the Gaylord, and it just reminded me of my funniest story there. So goodness gracious, this was 20 years ago. I was competing there, and I saw my old college buddy. We were great friends, but we were also big time pranksters in college, and we did all these pranks. So, man, I hadn't seen this guy in probably close to 10 years. And, we were just chatting, ran into him at the Gaylord at the competition. He was there with a different group, and we were chatting, and, out in the kind of the common areas, they would set up places to where you could go through the line and get food, like pre-made food, like sandwiches or an apple or chips and all that stuff. So he and I are chatting, and we're going through this line, and I had this big Nike workout bag that was a popular thing back then, and I had one, and I'm getting my food, and we're talking, and we're not paying attention, and the next thing you know, he darts up to the front of the line, literally cuts in front of 4 or 5 people, pays for his food, has a conversation with the lady where he's paying for the food, and points back at me, and he leaves. He had been putting food in my bag the entire time. And then he got up there and told the lady, hey, you need to check that guy's bag. He's stealing a bunch of food. And that fool left, never came back. Luckily, I had to pay for all the stuff he had put in my bag. But luckily, So that is my greatest memory of the Gaylord. Like, I was instantly sweating, and I'm explaining to this lady, I'm like, no, that's my friend. He set me up. And anyway, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Buy $40 worth of food.
That's funny.
And literally, I didn't see him again the whole weekend. Like, we hadn't seen each other in 10 years. And that was his joke to me, and gone.
That is so funny.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, sorry, I get off topic a little bit.
I love it.
I
love it. The Gaylord. Oh my God, there's so many stories from the Gaylord. It's crazy. They've done a lot better now, I feel like, with the cheerleading events there. But so those are perfect examples of, preparing your parents and your staff. And if people aren't familiar, with those kinds of things, if you're not familiar with those kinds of things, you need to familiarize yourself, ask somebody who's been, get that information. I think too that it's important for coaches to know for any competition, but even the bigger competitions, like it's your job to prepare your athletes for success. And that's from, how, like, their arrival time, how they appear when they're, what's the expectation when they arrive in the venue? What's the expectation in the warm-up room? What is the warm-up going to be like? What are they doing on each mat? Preparing them to successfully hit their routine. If they've not hit it at all at the gym, to just expect that they're going to hit it on stage.
They're not going to hit it there either.
Like, that's not going to happen. And so you're not doing your job as a coach and preparing your athletes for success. And so I think
do remember the mindset of like, once their adrenaline kicks in, it'll be great. And we'll hit it. Like, no, it'll actually be worse once their adrenaline kicks in.
Right. That was the philosophy back in 1992, but it's 2026.
Correct.
And in 2026, they need to be hitting their routine at practice.
Well, and we know so much more about, that's the reality. These cheerleaders, are high-level athletes, and no other high-level athlete is going to show up for a major competition unprepared. And there's a lot that goes into that. Like I said, if you haven't, but they're still kids. So you've got to remind them, like, hey, you got to drink a lot of water, the days leading up to the competition.
100%.
All the travel, you got to get your rest. You've got to do all of these things, times however many people are on the team, because all of you have to do it. And that's the thing. You show up, and oftentimes these convention centers are crowded and packed out, and it may be an hour and a half in a line to get some food. So, have you prepared? Have you let the folks know alternatives, or just make sure you plan? Bring some snacks with you. Do something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. And I think that, as owners or coaches, directors, whoever's in charge of kind of organizing the program, I think that also is extremely important. I can't tell you how often people show up to an event and they don't have all their paperwork in order. And then they're mad at the event producer because they don't have all their paperwork in order, and they're flustered, and, that's frustrating. And so being proactive, every event producer, depending on who you're going to, there's a lot of things that you have to do in order to compete. If you're a USASF member, you have to have rosters in the USASF. You have to attach those rosters to the event. And there's steps and processes and things that are required, and you need to do those things ahead of time. And if you don't know what those are, again, ask a friend, ask somebody who knows, so that you can be prepared and you can be ready, because that's setting your weekend off, not for success. When you come into the registration room and you're a mess and you don't have all of your ducks in a row. Well,
experience is great. Experience is key. Your preparation and everything you do is going to basically, that's what dictates your outcome. But experience can also be a negative thing, because you're so experienced and you've done it so long, then you forget that others haven't. I had this
true
light bulb moment this week of, man, we're taking a lot of new coaches to NCA. And this was my 3:00 in the morning. I wake up and I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope we've done this. Because NCA has different crossover rules than all of the other competitions we go to. So that is just something that literally I expect every Stingray coach to know. But then I was like, do they know that? And it just hit me at 3:00 in the morning. We haven't gone over that. And we've got a lot of new and young coaches. And, it's imperative that we make sure that these rosters are correct, because that's a thing. we've seen it. Programs be disqualified for incorrect rosters. Goodness gracious. Think about the money involved in that. Like, I don't want to make it about money. It's sad for the kids to be disqualified, but man, that's sad for a group of parents that have, flights and hotels,
all of it, all the way around.
Registration
It's
fees. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And those are things that can be avoided with just a little bit more planning and preparation and communication and, that kind of stuff. And it's important, I think, from that aspect before you even get to competition, I think that is important. I also think that it's super easy to put a whole lot of emphasis on a big event. I know obviously, Casey, you guys go to a lot of big events. And so you're managing a variety of those, but for a lot of programs, it's their one big event at the end of the season. We'll just talk about Worlds, for example. So, we have everybody's working to go to the World Championship, the USASF Cheerleading and or Dance Worlds at the end of the year. And basically, I feel like coaches fall in the trap, and I was guilty of this as a young coach. Like, every single thing that you do kind of is about that one event. And you're using it as kind of motivation. Well, if you want to do well at Worlds, if you want to get to Worlds, you have to do X, Y, and Z, which that is true, maybe. But at the same time,
what happens if you don't?
Correct. And you end up accidentally, I feel like, just everything that you do and everything that you say and everything that it's all about becomes about that one event. And I feel like that's a trap that coaches fall into a lot of the time. And we've got to find other ways to motivate our athletes. That's a stop on the journey. It's not the whole reason. There's a whole lot of other reasons why the kids should be, exercising or drinking water or coming to practice or working hard or whatever, listening, whatever the case may be. Like, there's a million other reasons why they should be doing the things that you need them to do, not just because they want to get to Worlds or just because they want to place at Worlds or whatever. And we have a tendency, I think, as coaches to fall into that trap where that's just all we want to talk about. And that hypes up, puts too much pressure and expectation, I feel like, when you actually get there, and it makes everything about that, I feel like, and
cheerleading is hard. Dance is hard. All of these things are hard. And there's so many great teams. So, you can prepare as good as you possibly can. Like, you can do everything correctly and still have a bad day and not get, not win or not get the results that you wanted to get. But it is so much more than that. You talked about it's the experience, and if I have prepared full-heartedly from everything, from here's how we leave to here's how we come home, then the kids and the families can have a great experience, because you talk about that. There are some big events that teams and programs, I will never forget this. And this was pre-Worlds, but NCAA was kind of looked at as the pinnacle all-star event. And we would have teams that they may win every single competition and get second at NCAA by .01, and you interview those kids at the end of the season, and we had a terrible year. We were horrible. We did it because they didn't win the big show,
Right. Right.
So a lot of these things are built up.
Or conversely, they win the big show and they're like, sweet, I achieved it and I'm peace out now. I'm not going to cheer anymore.
Right.
Because you made that the be all end all.
I got it. I got the jacket.
And then
we're done.
Right.
Yeah.
On to the next. Both can be true,
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. But that's the thing. We're creating, I use this word often. We're creating experience for the kids and for the families, And is it a good experience or a bad experience? If it's a good experience, people are going to want to do that again, and that's the thing. Like, I'm up against, we're literally down to the last few competitions for our family. My youngest daughter, she's a super senior, and that hit me the other night. Like, man, this is it, and we're about to be done with this. And there's other things that we're done with. Like, my boys are done with baseball and done with football, and all of those experiences, now they're great memories, but
right.
We don't get to do it again like we have been doing it. So, that's the thing of creating that time and doing your best to create these experiences for the families. And just some of the conversations that I've had over the years with mothers and fathers of just, the gratitude they have of getting on an airplane and going and spending an entire weekend, with their kid and running around a convention center and all those things that we think are like crazy and stressful and scatterbrained. Like once you've done it and you look back on it, those are the great, that's
right. When you're in it, you're in it and you're all like scooped up in whatever's going on at the moment, whether it's, like you said, whether it's chaos, drama, fun, whatever it is, like in the heat of the moment, you're all wrapped up in it. But then you look back on it and you're right. They do become some of the best memories. And you're like, man, why was I so like stressed out about that weekend? Like it's a fun memory that I have now with my kid. I actually experienced that a lot this year with my son who, he plays soccer, as you know, and when I was really sick, I wasn't able to travel to a lot of his tournaments, and it was really, I was frustrated and sad that I couldn't go. And it was a lot for my husband too, because they were traveling a lot. And so he was working and traveling and going to the tournaments and traveling. And so almost every weekend, it seemed like he was gone and I was home alone and I was not well. And anyway, finally this year, I was able to take him on his first soccer tournament, like by myself. I was able to go, and him and I just went, and we did that 3 times this year where I was the one that just took him myself. And it was awesome to be able to do that because I hadn't been able to. And I think had I not had that time where I couldn't do it, I wouldn't have appreciated it as much until later, like you said. But because I couldn't do it for almost 2 years, and then I got to do it 3 times, every time it was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I just love that I get to spend this weekend with my kid, like just me and him, because I don't, get to do that very often with my son.
Right.
And with my daughter a lot, but
it's a lot of time together. It
is.
I remember talking to a dad, and it was a pretty cool thing because they actually drove a long way to come to our gym, and I thought that was crazy. And he was like, they did it for, I don't know, I think like 3 years. I mean, they were literally driving from Tifton, Georgia to Atlanta, and I was like, man, that's got to be tough on you. He's like, dude, this has been the best 3 years of my life. He's like, I pick her up from school and we head to Atlanta and we've got 3 hours together, and then I get to watch her practice, and he would always hang out with us. And he became just a gym dad because he's there. And obviously didn't have anywhere to go because they didn't live close by. So, and he was like, but I'm getting 6 hours with my daughter where it's just us two. And he's like, and I'm getting that a couple times a week. And he's like, dads don't get that with their daughter. It's like, he's like, I'm so grateful for that. And here I am in my head, like, man, this poor guy, like he's having to drive 12 hours a week. And he just had a totally different attitude about it,
Yeah,
and then you
true.
realize it's so much more than the 2.5 minutes, because that's sometimes the critique you hear of, well, we do all this, and we're going to go to the competition and they're on the floor 5 minutes. They are, but there's so much more to that. They're,
Right. Well, it could be 7 seconds, right? In a 100-meter dash. So, there's that.
Absolutely.
I think too, I think it's
fast
important.
100 though. That may be world record pace. So.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. 9 seconds, 10 seconds, 12 seconds. I don't know. Anyway, point is, I think that, just all of that is absolutely true. And I also think that for everyone involved in the process, it's important to give yourself the opportunity to win. And James Speed said that to me actually when I was doing interviews for the book. And I thought, in all of my years, I've never had anyone say that to me. And I think that it's just really an intelligent statement. You can't control at the end of the day the outcome of what the judges are going to think. I think that there are, depending on the event, I always try to teach my coaches, like, the goal is to be undeniable. You need to be undeniable so that the judges can't deny you of winning. But at the end of the day, like the pro league, for example, or even Stingrays, you get to that level and those kids, they're so good. They're all so good. And so you're talking about like, who's going to be the winner? It's like, my God, it's a nose hair, and so they're all undeniable. So it's hard to pick that winner, but all you can do is the best you can do as a parent, as a coach, as an athlete, as an owner, to give yourself the opportunity to win. So that's, being on time, being dressed properly, making sure that you're set up for success, preparing ahead of time, practicing, showing up for practice, all the things that give you the opportunity to win. And if you're giving yourself the opportunity to win, then that's all that you can do. And the rest is going to take care of itself. And that's it.
We talk about that often. You can't control what the judges write,
Right.
And heck, you mentioned a lot of high level teams, but man, go look at the scores in small junior level 2.
It's right. No, you're right.
And
it's insane.
Literally it's like, you scored a 98.8 and you're in 6th place, and
Yeah. And you're looking at the 6th place, you're watching that team in 6th place and you're like, oh my gosh, they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal. So you've got to you show up and you give yourself the opportunity to win. And what does that look like? So you ask yourself, and then it starts by being prepared, by having your paperwork in order, by running through the warm up, all the things we talked about, but you have to give yourself the opportunity to win. And then the chips are going to fall where they may at that point after that. But if you don't give yourself the opportunity to win, then you're already starting from behind, I guess is kind of the point.
We try to teach our coaches, and this isn't always easy to do because we are there. We're trying to be competitive. We're trying to win the competition, just like you said. But we teach it, we really share with our coaches of like, look at these kids when they're coming off the stage. If they're coming off the stage and they're jumping up and down and they're hugging each other and they are pumped about that routine, that may be the win right there, because what's happening back there on the judges stand, we don't control, but we do control or have a hand in that piece. So,
Agreed.
And it's important that you're prepared for all outcomes, because I have seen some of our best teams not have their best day. And like I said, you've got to be able to be prepared to be able to handle all situations. Because, that's the thing. And that's another thing that we share with our coaches. And we share this because we've done it wrong. I describe the kids coming off the stage and they're jumping up and down and hugging, but you've also equally as many times the kids are coming off the stage and man, they know they dropped that stunt or they know something didn't hit. And then they're fighting, they're squabbling, they're blaming each other, and then what are you going to do there as a coach? Because that's the thing of like, that's what I share with the coaches. The kids know they messed up. You don't need to tell them again. Getting in their face and yelling at them, that's not the time to – there's not ever really a time to do that. But that's certainly not the time to do it because they know, like, you don't have to beat them down. They're beating themselves up enough. So then it becomes your job to pick them back up because the reality is there's going to be that next competition, and until you.
Well, and if you gave yourself the opportunity to win or plug in the word success there, you gave yourself the opportunity to be successful, then there's nothing else that you could do. Unfortunately, you had a bad day. Mistakes do happen and that is okay, but
Absolutely.
If you give yourself every opportunity to be successful, then that's what you've done, and that's when I feel like coaches, like when you do hit and it's perfect and you still fall short, that's when you look at your team and you're like, look, we did everything that we could and you were phenomenal and they were just better. So go shake their hand and let's get back in the gym and let's work harder. And that's going to happen sometimes. It is what it is, unfortunately. That's what makes us better though.
Yeah. My oldest daughter says this a lot, but pressure is a privilege, just what you said, showing up, knowing that you have the opportunity to win, that can be a lot of pressure. But, it's a privilege to have that pressure because, you've earned that. You've worked hard. You've put yourself in a position. Everybody's worked hard. The parents, the coaches, the entire team has worked hard to be able to put themselves in that position. So, enjoy it, how many times, that's the thing. Like, I love sports. I love to compete. I love to do things. I like to go run a race or ride a bike or do whatever. But I'm not going to win. I'm not going to sign up for the local 5K and go win the thing. So right. That's the thing that I try to share with our kids and our coaches. We do have so many opportunities to win, and that can be stressful, and that's a thing, kind of circling back to what we're talking about is just trying to support everybody to keep those stress levels down, because stress to me equals fear, and fear is never good. Fear is, I guess there's the fight or flight, but if all your kids walk on that stage and they're in fight or flight, you are not going to do well. Like, it's just not going to happen. So
yeah, and I feel like it goes back to the preparation, and maybe I feel that way because I'm a preparer, but I feel like if you're prepared, you will be more successful. It doesn't mean you'll win. It doesn't mean you will achieve every single goal that you want, but you've given yourself the opportunity to do so by being prepared. And that's prepared in every way possible, down to the parents, the athletes, the coaches, all of it. Like, you're prepared.
I think, yeah. And let's just talk about, a couple more ways of doing that. Simulating competition the week before. Hey, we're going to come in, we're going to do our competition warm up, and we are going to, in our gym, we call it a full out party. Like, all right, there's 4 teams practicing, so everybody's going to come over here. We're going to do our competition warm up, and we're going to go one at a time. Heck, you can add to that, especially if it's early in the season. And hey, we're going to wear our uniforms. We're going to come in competition ready. That is also something I think that's great, because for us, it's really important how the kids look. So it is far better to correct that in the gym than it is to correct that in the convention center, so hey, let's come in, let's do a full competition walkthrough. We try to create a couple different experiences like that throughout the year so that we can get ahead of those things, so we're not dealing with them at the first competition. Because I do think that is something that's also important to share. When you get to the competition, the reality is things are going to happen. What we ask of our coaches, our parents, and our kids are it's cool to take note of those things, but we don't want to deal with those until we get home,
100%.
Unless someone's in danger, if it's an emergency, if it's a 911 emergency, then we'll deal with it. We need to know. But you're a little upset by whatever, how the coach handled you after they came off the floor. We want to talk about it, but we want to talk about that when we get back to our gym. So
agree 100%. Well, Casey, I think it's time for some dad jokes.
My favorite time.
Speaking of full out parties and parties in general.
Oh, then this joke has party in it. So how do you organize a space party? I
don't know.
You plan it. Ba-doom, boom.
Oh, speaking of preparation, you plan it. I love it.
Plan it.
That's great.
Hey, be sure to send us your favorite dad jokes so we can share them on the show and give you a shout out. You can email them to Stacy at Join MotUS. That's STACY. Or just send us a DM on our social media at Join MotUS. So I'm going to take a minute and share with you a little bit about CX Brands.
Get ready for an event experience that's all about you. CX Brands brings the energy with 4 unique competitions: the Cheer Expo, Cheer X, Excite, and Excel. 16 events across the country, each designed to deliver excellence from start to finish. When you think cheer events, think CX Brands. Find your event now at thecxbrands.com. That's THECXBRANDS.com. Experience excellence. Experience CX Brands. All right, we are back. Casey, are you ready to do a little rapid fire question here?
Let's do it.
All right. Do you prefer to read romance novels or sci-fi novels?
Oh my goodness, you know this, and I'm like embarrassed by it sometimes. But man, I love a good romance novel.
It might be why I put the question on the paper.
As a matter of fact, like I was that guy, especially when I was younger and cared more about what people thought. But I'd be in the airport with my Nicholas Sparks book hidden inside a Men's Fitness magazine so that it didn't look like I was, but I don't know. I love those. I actually just finished this Rebecca Yarros book, The Last Letter. And oh my goodness, I cried snot bubble crying for the last for 15 minutes after that. And I knew it was coming because I'd seen
that's
all this.
That's the Fourth Wing series, right? Is that what
it
that
is?
is?
She did write The Fourth Wing, but this is a totally different
book.
Yes,
Got it. Okay.
Yes. And
okay.
it is, oh my goodness, it is so
That's
sad
funny.
at the end. It is a great book, but it is so sad. So
Do you like your eggs scrambled or fried?
fried and runny.
Do you call these types of sandwiches hoagies or subs?
Only Yankees eat hoagies, so of course I eat a sub. I bet you eat a hoagie though.
I do eat a hoagie, and it's much better. The hoagie is much better, in my opinion, in the Northeast. When you make it, all of our Northeast listeners, woohoo! Hoagies are the way to go.
From the
Wawa hoagie,
from
even
the
better
person
yet.
who moved south. So
I know. I moved south for the weather, not the food.
I love we have a place called Baldino's. They make a pretty good sub. So
Okay, all right. Do you turn or cut the lights off?
I turned the lights off.
I turn the lights off too, but I feel like there's a lot of people in the South that cut the lights off. I remember when somebody first said that to me, to cut the lights off. I was like, or they said, "Can you cut the lights?" And I was like, "Cut the lights? I don't understand."
That's kind of one of my household pet peeves too. Like my kids do neither; they just leave them on. So
well, same. Do you drink coffee or tea?
Oh, I love coffee. So I pretty much drink 2 liquids these days, and that is black coffee and water. Those are about the only thing that I drink at all.
I love coffee too. I love the smell of coffee. I used to drink 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day, but I don't drink any more coffee now. I drink tea. That's not true. I will have a Starbucks every now and again. I will allow myself to have a Starbucks, but I only started doing that this year. Prior to that, it was just I quit coffee cold turkey and do the tea thing.
Well, I'm lucky that I drink black coffee. I don't put anything in it. I don't like any sugar or anything. I made a decision, goodness gracious, over 20 years ago.
My coffee, I was like baking a cake in my coffee pretty much with my cream and sugar. So yeah, it was bad. It was bad for me to have all the coffee. And but I started drinking these things. You should try it. It's called Teachino. So my niece told my sister about them, or my niece got my sister hooked on them, and then my sister told me about them. So it tastes sort of more like coffee, but it's still tea. And yeah, they're called Teachino. I buy them online on Amazon. I'm actually drinking a gingerbread. This is still from Christmas, a gingerbread Teachino. It's pretty yummy.
I don't know what it is, but so literally, I mean, I love sweets. Don't get me wrong. I love sweets. So, but I don't know. Goodness gracious. 20 years ago, I was like, gosh, I cannot eat and drink the sweets. Like it's going to catch up to me. So I was like, would I rather eat a sweet or drink a sweet? And, I just made the choice. I was like, all right, I'm going to keep eating sweets, but I'm not going to drink anything sweet because I used to love Coke. And I mean, I still love Coke.
Gosh.
I just don't drink it. So
I would drink my 3 or 4 cups of coffee before noon, and then from noon to dinner time, it would all be Coke, Coke Zero all afternoon. Now I drink water and tea only.
We used to have a Sonic up from the gym, and I would go, and the Sonic double cheeseburger and the Route 44 Coke and tater tots were lunch pretty much 5 days a week. And then you could go back and get your 44-ounce Coke refilled. So it was Coke all day. Nice. And then, I also like to have dessert with that. So anyway, I cut that out. And now, goodness gracious, I can't hardly drink anything sweet just because I don't do it anymore.
It tastes weird to you, yeah.
Well, it all tastes the same. Like sweet tea tastes the same as sweet coffee that tastes the same as Gatorade. Like anything sweet kind of tastes the same to me. And
black coffee is just so bitter to me, and that's why I can't drink it. I feel like it's super bitter.
I love that bitter.
To me. Yeah.
Man, some black coffee that's kind of burned in that's been in the gas station all day. I love that stuff.
So I want to go back to the books really quick. So I love a good romance book. My husband loves sci-fi, so I will read some sci-fi occasionally, and I actually enjoy it. But I am listening to this book right now, this series of books I have to share. So this friend of mine, a coworker, his name is Bailey, and he is a book reader. And he just recently, I feel like, kind of gotten into books, and he was encouraging Chris and I to read this book called Dungeon Crawler Carl. So it's Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I was like, I don't have any interest in reading this book, but he started reading one of my books that I wrote. So I felt obligated to, okay, I'll give this book a try. Like, he's reading my book. He's consistently been recommending that we read this book, insists that we need to read this book. So I started listening to it on audio when I walk and drive, and there's 8 books in the series. I am on book 4. This is the most
Loving it.
entertaining, and I highly recommend, if anybody is interested in reading it, that you do the audio, because the audio is unbelievable. And I don't mind audiobooks, but I don't love audiobooks. I consume audiobooks because I like, as a way to consume books, because I can't sit still long enough to read a book sometimes, so I'll often have a paperback that I'm reading and an audiobook that I'm listening to, that are 2 separate things.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I do that a lot. And it takes me forever to finish a paperback because I just don't have as much time to sit down and read as I would like. And so anyway, I'm listening to these in audio, and it's the best audiobook I've ever listened to. Like, I'm not saying it's the best literary piece of work. I'm just saying that, like, audio, like entertainment, it's actually quite entertaining. And it basically is The Hunger Games meets Ready Player One meets Kill Bill, I feel like. It is crazy. It's super crazy. I highly recommend it.
The audiobooks have definitely helped me get outside of what I normally read. And I think I told you this a couple of years ago, training for one of these crazy mountain climbing events. So a lot of training, a lot of time on my feet. I'd have to go out and hike for literally 12 hours sometimes. So that's how I found that Rebecca Yarrow's Fourth Wing series. I just bought the audiobook because it was like 38 hours long. And I was like, okay, here's something for 38 hours.
It's going to keep me busy.
Yeah.
Right?
And then I loved it. And it was so far out, like it's got some romance in it, but it was so far out of the realm of what I would normally enjoy. But man, I could not. And now literally, I thought she was doing a trilogy. It was funny. She never said she was, but now there's a 4th book coming out in that series. And I'm just like, Heather and I were talking about it. We can't wait for this 4th book. And I'm like, well, when it does come out, I'm not even going to start it until this summer when I start my long training, because I know it'll be another
38-hour book.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think we have a question from Marcus in Ohio.
Yeah. Marcus comes to us and he asks, during championship week, how much do you think the emotional tone set by coaches and gym owners affect athlete performance? And what are some ways leaders can check their own stress before it spills onto the kids? That's a great question. We kind of alluded to it earlier, but, if your coaches are stressed, your kids are going to be stressed. If their parents are stressed, they're going to be stressed. So, like, how do you keep those levels down? And I think it's just by talking it through and preparation. Another funny story. I mean, goodness gracious, this is like 15 years ago, but I remember a coach, and you were talking about putting one competition on a pinnacle, but it's 2 weeks before NCA and he's yelling at his team, we've got NCA, and he's super stressed about NCA. We had another coach who would literally, this is a true story. The dude would lose his hair leading up to NCA, like patches of hair would fall out because he's stressed out so much. And I don't know, I do, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of things I get stressed out about, but I don't really get stressed out about the competition. So another funny story is the guy that would lose his hair. This was back during the day of CD. You had to have a CD.
Oh my God, the CDs.
So I coached with him. I was the funny guy. He was the stressed out guy losing his hair. And we were walking down into the coach's box at NCA. And I had the CD. Now, mind you, your music had already been downloaded, and this is when you just pressed a button back then. So they had the music downloaded, but every other competition was CD. So I took an extra CD and I broke it into like 3 pieces, and we're walking into the thing, and I opened it and I just let it fall on the floor, and the look on his face was like, oh my God. So I did not do a good job at helping bring his stress level down. But
that's funny.
That's the thing. The reality is if you prepare and you are prepared and you've gone through all the things, then there's nothing to be stressed about because you've already done it. You've already done it. You've already been there. You've already run through it. In our gym, we track the number of full outs. There are coaches that have like, hey, we need 19 full outs before we are in peak performance. Like they track it and they follow those things. So have you done that? If you're at 15, you might be stressed going into the competition. So know your numbers, know what you need to do, get that stuff done, and then chill out and enjoy your kids.
One of the things that we always used to talk about too is just, your mentality and your mental mindset is important. And so it's easy to be nervous. It's easy to be nervous as the coach. It's easy for the kids to be nervous going into those big events or any event for that matter. Everybody's experiences are different. And we would always say, when anybody said the word, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, or I'm nervous, just the word nervous came out of anybody's mouth. It was always, you're not nervous, you're excited. You're excited for the opportunity to be here and take the floor or do this routine or whatever the case may be, but change the word and teach the kids to change the word nervous to excited anytime they think it, anytime they feel it, to flip it to excited. Carly, actually, who I coached with, started that. And I thought that was really positive, and it made a difference, I feel like, for sure. So that's another little tip.
I learned that the hard way because I used to walk around backstage. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. Right. And I would guarantee they're going to be nervous,
Right. Right.
And certain thing. I think I probably read it in some parenting book, but I'm excited to watch you perform today. Yep. And then they come off and I enjoyed watching you perform today, no matter how they did. So just those two lines right there can literally just get your kids in a calm spot. So, yes. And I think, and I mean, if you're a parent listening to this, that's also another thing,
100%.
I'm not always great at that because I'm more the guy so you messed up on that. But
yeah, it's hard because as a parent, because you want your kid to feel good about what they do. And when they make mistakes, it hurts, and your heart hurts for them. But I feel like for the parents, it's the same. The kids know they messed up. They don't feel good about it. So don't rub it in. And as a parent, you do enjoy watching them. So just, make sure that you tell them that. Amanda, wrote us a little note, Casey, I'm going to share. And she said, we finally stopped doing everything ourselves after listening to the MotUS Edge podcast episode on delegation and staff leadership. I realized the problem wasn't my team. It was me. I was holding on to everything because that's how we've always done it. We took one small step from the episode, clearly defining roles and expectations for our staff. Within weeks, our practices ran smoother, our coaches were more confident, and I wasn't answering texts at midnight anymore. The gym didn't just feel better, it ran better. The episode changed how I lead. So yay for Amanda. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's pretty awesome.
I can relate, Amanda. We know that stuff because we did it wrong, and
100%.
And it doesn't mean that we still can't do it wrong, but it's, you hire people to do a job, and, sometimes it's tough to allow them to do that job, but it's imperative that you do.
Yeah. And sometimes it's tough to allow them to do that job and make mistakes. But that's how we all learn and grow. So you have to let them make the mistakes, and you have to help them through the mistakes, and come out the other side, which is hard to do. But it's
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely, too.
Yeah.
I got one, too, a review that we got.
Cool.
I listen to the MotUS Edge podcast every week because it feels like sitting down with other gym owners who actually get it. No sugarcoating, just real conversations about leadership, staff, athletes, and running a business that lasts. It's practical, honest, and always gives me something I can use. That is something that I really agree with. That's the thing. And I've been blessed to be a part of small gyms, medium gyms, and large gyms. And with that blessing, I've learned that it doesn't matter what size you are, you've got problems, and there's things that happen, and life happens, and all of these things. So it's cool to be able to connect with others and learn from their learn from the things that they've done wrong, learn from the things that they've done right. And like I said, I am fully aware that every single gym in the country, no matter how big or small, there's something that they do better than we do. And I'd love that information so that we could implement it and give our kids and families and customers the opportunity to be able to share in those same things. So that's really kind of what we're all about on the MotUS Edge. And with MotUS is, sharing those ideas, sharing the good things and the bad things in order to help others.
I couldn't agree more. And thank you guys so much for listening. And thanks for all the positive feedback. We love it. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the MotUS Edge. Check out our shorts, like, and comment. We love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X at Join MotUS. We actually changed our TikTok to the MotUS Edge. So you can check us out there. Follow our show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, leave us a comment and tell all of your friends. And hey, if you're a gym owner, join the movement today and sign up for MotUS. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we're excited for you to have the MotUS Edge.
Boom. Have a great day,
Boom.
everyone.
Bye, y'all. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmotus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.